In this video, I want to talk about what the new changes mean for the future of Apex. I want to cover them more in depth, and I also want to talk about how Apex views these changes, and I want to give my thoughts and elaborate further on certain aspects that I haven't heard too many people mention. First, I think it's important to note that these changes, particularly the legend upgrades and the armor system, will make it harder for newer players. The skill gap will certainly increase in Apex, and I believe that this is a double-edged sword, but will wind up being a good thing for Apex in the long run. However, early on, there's no doubt it's going to be tough. Newer players are going to have to learn a ton about the legends in order to find a moderate amount of success. And while I think this is a rewarding aspect to the game, it can also wind up being too much and just result in players giving up because the barrier to enter Apex can just be too high. Now, I'm certain Respawn has thought long and hard about this, and I'm also sure that's why there's only 2 times a match where a legend will upgrade abilities and not something like 3 or 4 times. The reason why I think it will be okay in the long run is because of the other modes that Apex seems to be leaning into. Over the last year, we've obviously had the addition of a full-time mixtape playlist where players can just hop into matches with less stakes and less on the line. This can help players get the feel for certain elements of the game without going through the motions of a lengthy battle royale match. Players can get a grasp on some of the core elements in mixtapes such as abilities, movement, gunplay, etc. But one of the potential problems that will be interesting to see how it plays out is that legend upgrades and the new armor system will not be applied to the mixtape playlist. And this is something that I wasn't sure of in my last video when I initially covered the changes because, well, to be frank, this wasn't covered in the early release that I was a part of. Apex only finally mentioned this when they released their blog post yesterday. But with that said, having some core elements of the game be separated might confuse newer players. Now, I don't want to be misunderstood here. I think that these changes are really important for the game in the long run because ultimately Apex has needed something that has spiced up the gameplay, changed it up, made it more innovative, but also not taken away from too much of what makes Apex feel like Apex. And also, just to be straight up here, Season 19 was not very successful. Not in the aspect of how much money it made for Apex or anything like that. It's just that player count was down, viewership was down, the sentiment was down. So these changes were very much needed, and I'm excited to see how they play out. But the other thing that I want to talk about here is how the legend perks will affect legend balancing in the future. Now, typically, we've all waited around for legends to get significantly changed before a season or sometimes in the middle of a season. And we wait for this in order for the meta to shift, and sometimes that would freshen up the game or sometimes make it worse. And this would take a while to happen on most legends. It's never just happened quickly where they changed a legend in a week and then, a couple weeks later, a new legend meta emerged. Now, an element that Apex mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, was that now they can tweak perks by buffing or nerfing them much easier than just changing the legend's core abilities as a whole. It's literally what the head legend balancer John Larson said here.
This will also give us another lever when it comes to legend balancing. We now have the ability to modify or swap out upgrades altogether to shift metas quickly in a way that doesn't compromise core gameplay patterns from specific abilities.
Now, if I'm to be optimistic here, it would be interesting to see these perks change rather quickly, or at least quicker than how some of the previous legend balancing updates had come through. Now, Apex will also have to grapple with, if we change this too much or too quick, how much does that confuse newer players? And while I understand that, that will be something we'll have to watch for, it would be cool to see a more fluctuating legend meta where it wasn't just dominated for 6 to 9 months out of the year. And obviously, knowing Apex and playing it for the last 5 years, I'm not sure how often we could realistically expect tweaks to legend perks, but they did mention that this is something they could be more fluid with, and if we could get to a point where updates came more frequently, that would refresh the game for players who sink a good amount of time into Apex. Now, it's clear listening to some of the devs discuss these changes that they were really mindful of readability when it came to these legend upgrades. They didn't want to make certain legends that were already really strong incredibly broken as a result of their legend upgrade. So you may see that some of these legends that have dominated the meta not necessarily have the most overwhelming legend upgrades. But on the flip side, some of these legends that are more weak or not as popular, they will have more impactful or significant legend upgrades, and this will definitely affect the meta in a more positive way. But another fascinating way that they did this is that they had to mesh the armor upgrade and the legend upgrade so that this affected the readability. I haven't really heard too many people discuss this, but if you think about it very simply put, let's just say you see a Fuse hit your teammate with a Knuckle Cluster, and then you see Fuse move with a speed boost. Well, at that point, you'll know that Fuse is on his purple armor upgrade. Well, there's two ways you could look at this. With some of these legends, if you shoot them first, before you see any indication of what upgrade they're on, you'd obviously know the potential from what armor you see. But on the flip side, with some of these legends, if you see an ability that you know is a purple armor upgrade, then you'll put 2 and 2 together and say, okay, yeah, I know this player or this team is on purple armor, and that will affect the readability of how you may want to fight them. And if you just stop and think for a second, if Apex didn't combine the armor with the legend upgrades, this would be way more chaotic to try to read and understand, even for an experienced player. So once players learn to tie these two elements together, I think grasping what has changed in Apex won't be as difficult. It'll still be tough for sure, even for me and many other players, but at least there are some ways to gauge what a legend is on for armor and what that means they're capable of beyond their core abilities. Now, I had some people ask me how these perks and how these abilities will work in game. Like, will you have to click your inventory and then select from there? No, that's not what's going to happen. You're going to get a prompt with an alternate interact, probably down on the D-pad or whatever your keybind is set to on mouse and keyboard, and you'll have an option sort of like the heal wheel where you choose left or right, and you'll decide which ability you want to take on each upgrade. Now, quickly, I'm going to go over each legend's upgrade. For Bangalore, her first upgrade is see nearby ordnance through walls on death boxes, or she can reduce her ult cooldown by 25%. Her next upgrade is auto ping enemies who trigger her double time, or she can regenerate her health points while inside smoke. That's pretty overpowered. We'll see how that one plays out. It kind of depends on how fast she regenerates her HP. For Fuse, he can take 50% less damage and avoid slowing effects from his ult, or he can see nearby ordnance through walls on death boxes. His second upgrade is take 25% less explosive damage or short speed boost on successful knuckle cluster hit. For Ash, she can call out the number of squads within 150 meter radius after a squad wipe, or she can use her marked for death passive, which will track enemies' position on a map for 60 seconds. Her second upgrade is the arc snare remains in play for 24 seconds and can catch multiple enemies, or she can gain an extra arc snare charge. For Mad Maggie, she can gain a riot drill charge, reduce her active duration by 2 seconds, or increase the depth and width of the riot drill by 1.5 meters, I'm assuming. Her second one is auto reload shotguns on knocks, or her wrecking ball can catch fire with thermites on detonation. For Ballistic, he can reveal care packages or see ammo in death boxes. That's not very strong. But on his second one, he can gain an extra smart bullet charge, or his smart bullet duration is now tripled. I assume that means the length in which somebody's gun overheats. For Pathfinder, he can gain access to survey beacons, or he can gain access to ring consoles. His second upgrade is his grapple cooldown resets on knocks or zip lines are now energized for a short time, granting 25% damage reduction while riding. The grapple cooldown on a knock is sick. I can't wait to try that out. For Wraith, she can reduce her tactical cooldown by 5 seconds, or her passive will trigger when nearby enemy squad count increases. Her second one will reduce ultimate cooldown by 20%, or she can reduce her tactical windup by 20%. That is her hand animation, which is a 1.25 second animation before she can actually get into her phase. So that's pretty cool. Octane, you're going to want to listen to this one. He can take 25% less damage from stim, or he can take 25% less explosive damage. Now his second one, he can change directions with the launch pad double jump or gain an extra launch pad charge. Now, changing directions with the launch pad double jump is essentially a tap strafe, and this will apply to every player. So it doesn't matter if you're on console, doesn't matter if you play PC on controller, you will get this double jump and you'll be able to tap strafe, which is sick. Trust me. Now, this probably ties into the broader scope that I wanted to talk about, but I don't think I'll have time in this video, where I basically wanted to talk about how the movement in the game is going to change, most likely to be way more accessible for every input, but I'll save that video for a later date. For Revenant, he can either reduce his tactical cooldown by 5 seconds, or he can call out the number of squads within 150 meters after a squad wipe. For his second one, he can reduce his Shadow Pounce charge time by 20%, or his tactical can refresh on a knock, similar to Pathfinder's. For Horizon, she can see nearby ordnances through walls on death boxes or see ammo in death boxes, not very strong. And her second upgrade is a minus 5 second on her tactical cooldown, or she can reduce her ultimate cooldown by 14%. Now, as you can see, Horizon is one of the strongest legends, so her perks aren't super overwhelming, and that's a good thing. For Valkyrie, she can launch 15% higher with her Skyward Dive, or she can increase horizontal jetpack speed and acceleration. This is huge. This is her first upgrade. That's awesome. In her second one, she can modify her missile swarm pattern from a 4x3 pattern to a 3x5 pattern, or she can increase jetpack fuel by 25%. Once again, this is awesome for Valkyrie since she's in need of some love. For Bloodhound, they can reduce the tactical cooldown by 5 seconds, or White Ravens will now give a 25% ult charge when activated. That's interesting. Somebody in the comments can tell me how much interacting with a White Raven gives towards the ult charge, because I thought it was like something like 25% previously. So if that is the case, that means they are probably nerfing how the White Ravens work. And if it's not the case, someone will just correct me in the comments. On their second upgrade, Bloodhound will gain 25 HP on Nox while in Beast of the Hunt, which is awesome. Or Bloodhound can get a double tactical full body scan duration. Not sure what that means, but that is interesting. For Crypto, his tactical cooldown will be reduced by 10 seconds, or he can reduce ultimate cooldown by 20%. For his second one, he can increase the Neuralink and EMP range by 50%, or he can deploy the drone and it will call out the squads in the area. I assume that's the change a lot of players have been asking for, where they don't have to go in the drone and ping the banner or how many squads are nearby. So that is awesome too. All right, for Seer, he will increase his Heartseeker and tactical range by 25 meters, or he can remove the Heartseeker movement penalty, which is when Seer has his hands out and he moves much slower. His second upgrade is increasing the tactical scan duration by 1.5 seconds, or he can increase the throw range of his ultimate by 20 meters. Sounds like they tried to give Seer back some of the power that he used to have. Not sure how much that will move the mark though. For Vantage, she gains access to ring consoles, or she can have ultimate accelerants grant 4 bullets. Interesting. And her second one is she can refresh echo relocation on hits with sniper's mark. Not sure exactly what that means. If that means that the bat then flies to somebody she hits with the sniper, does that mean if it's just a hit, or does it need to be a knock? We'll have to wait and see. Gibraltar, he can revive allies to 50 HP, or he can auto reload shotguns on knocks. His second upgrade is the Dome of Protection size and cooldown will be reduced by 25%, so a smaller bubble, but he'll get it quicker, or his Dome of Protection can increase by 4 seconds. For Lifeline, she can increase revive speed by 20%, or she can reduce 10 seconds on her tactical cooldown. Her next upgrade, which players are going to love, she can gain a self revive. Yes, she can revive herself. Or the next Lifeline care package is a supply drop, which means she can just spawn in a Kraber if she wants. These are nice upgrades to Lifeline. For Mirage, his allies are revived with health regen up to 75 HP, or he can gain an ult decoy and reduce cooldown by 30 seconds. That's huge. The ultimate is on a 60-second timer, so that means his first upgrade will basically reduce his ultimate down to 30 seconds, which is chaotic, but I love that for Mirage. His second upgrade is he can gain a decoy charge, and he can have both active at once. So 2 decoys at once, awesome. Or he can refresh his tactical on successful bamboozles. Another awesome change. I love this for Mirage. For Loba, her Black Market Boutique range increases by 25%, or Loba can take an extra item from black markets. Her next upgrade is a minus 5 second on her tactical cooldown, or she can increase tactical height and range. Great, love that. Her tactical is something that has needed some love, and I think this is a great way to address it. For Newcastle, his mobile shield can gain 250 HP, or he can increase mobile shield speed to weapon and sprint speed. Interesting, I like that. His next upgrade is allies are revived with health regen up to 75 HP, or he can add 250 HP to his castle wall, extend energized barrier duration to 2 minutes. That's huge. The barrier, I believe, stays energized for only 30 seconds, so an upgrade to 2 minutes is huge. For Conduit, shield battery count can be shown on death boxes, or each ultimate's mine damage radius is increased by 10%. That will mean her ultimate will cover even more space, which is insane. Her second upgrade is gain a tactical charge, but half shield heal duration, or she can increase tactical range by 15%. That will make her very strong if she doesn't receive any nerfs at the beginning of the season. Caustic, he can increase tactical throw range by 75%, or his Nox grenade gas cloud can increase by 20% in area. His second upgrade is Nox Vision persists for longer, or he can regenerate HP while inside the Nox gas. This is slow. Hoping it's slow for Bangalore too, if it's the same sort of perk that she had. For Watson, she can revive allies to 50 HP, or her ult interceptions spawn arc stars. Interesting. Her next upgrade, she can choose to have double ult HP and capacity, or she can place up to 2 ults with half healing capacity, and use ultimate accelerants twice as fast. For Rampart, she can reduce Sheila cooldown by 20% or carry extra ammo per stack. Her next upgrade is improved mobile Sheila handling and spin up time by 20% or reload faster with Sheila or when behind amped cover. These are actually good perks for Rampart. It'll be interesting to see how many people play her. And for Catalyst, they increase the max number of active spikes by 1 or increase spike throw range by 40%. So basically bring her back in line to how she was upon release. And on her second upgrade, she can increase the Dark Veil lifetime by 20% or increase Dark Veil length by 27%. So lifetime, I assume, just means the duration it's out for, or she can increase how long the wall is. Now, these perks are going to change Apex Legends like we've never seen before, and I'm incredibly excited for it. So let me know what all of you guys think about these changes coming in Season 20, and while we're waiting for the season to drop, go check out 20 facts that only Apex veterans know. I covered it in this video here. Thanks for watching. Peace.